Here's your med kit. Pick it up.
And to see just how similar the M4 actually is to the M16A4, we're going to look at a simthic.com weapons chart. It does have a carbine damage model, which is slightly different than that of the M16A4, is dropping off to 15.4 instead of 18 damage at long range. The same rate of fire at 800, that is of course, if you can tap fire it at perfect synchronization, it's going to be 800 rounds a minute, basically full auto. The muzzle velocity is 580 meters per second and has a suppressed muzzle velocity of 320, which is not fantastic, but I don't really find it to be that much of a hindrance, as this is more of a medium-range weapon than a long-range weapon, and honestly, once you have it memorized, you can pretty much just compensate for that difference of muzzle velocity. The reload times are a little bit different at 1.85 seconds on a short reload and 2.4 seconds on a long reload. Those are both minusculely different. 0.03 seconds different on a long reload and 0.05 seconds difference on a short reload, with a reload threshold of 0.85, which means that you can basically cut the reload short if you're doing a long animation. The recoil pattern is 0.34 up, 0.1 left, and 0.4 pull right, which is identical to the M16 in pretty much every way as far as recoil and recoil management. Even the same first shot multiplier at 2.5, which in Battlefield 4 is actually applied to the last shot of a burst. So honestly, I don't find it to be that big of a deal, but it does get in the way every once in a while. The ADS accuracy, while not moving and standing, is 0.3. The M16's is 0.2. However, the M4 does have an advantage with the ADS while moving, coming in at 0.8, which is really accurate for ADS while moving. It has hardly any bullet deviation. And throughout the video you'll see I'm using the vertical grip, and a lot of players don't know this because no one on YouTube explains it, and if they're not someone that likes to dig through the weapons charts, then they would never know this. But the vertical and ergo grip actually make your accuracy while strafing and ADSing at the same time better. You are going to bring that down usually to 0.5 ADS while moving, which is an insane advantage over a lot of weapons. But of course it does differ between weapons, you know, depending on how bad their deviation is to start with. You're going to see a little bit different of a number there, but on the M4 it is about 0.5 ADS accuracy while strafing if you're using the vertical grip. Now it does have a hip fire of while standing and not moving of 2, which is quite good, and if you run the vertical grip and the laser, it can be an effective method to hip fire people in close quarters if you need to spam fire basically and just save yourself at the last minute. Now a few of you are going to be remembering back to my M4 loadout video where I very specifically said that I didn't really care for the laser on the M4 or a lot of weapons. And for the most part that is true, but I'm looking beyond my personal preferences here, and I've set up my M4 to match what a lot of people would wind up doing, and sort of the playstyle that, or the setup rather, that would fit a lot of playstyles and make the weapon all around just that much more versatile. Now the suppressor does hurt hipfire a little bit, but not too bad. You know, it's not to the point where it's game breaking if you have a laser and a suppressor at the same time. I do typically prefer the green laser sight, but the PEC-15 is an accurate laser unit for M4s and US Armed Forces loadouts, so I couldn't make myself use anything but that. Now I do highly advise that you use the EOTech sight or the US Holo sight if you're not into real weapons or whatever, but I do highly advise that you try it. It has distance markers, which is great for gauging bullet drop, but for the most part, because of the front sight post location on the M4, it can be a little bit difficult to keep track of where you're going if you're using the Cobra sight. Now, the Cobra sight generally is my favorite sight in the game, but for whatever reason, the M4 and I just don't get along if we're using the Cobra sight. So I've been using the US Holo sight, and I've been having a blast doing so I highly advise that you try it yourself. Of course, the sight is going to come down to personal preference, just like always, but just a bit of a recommendation from me. So what playstyle does the M4 fit? Well, if we think back to Battlefield 3, and we remember the M4A1, it was really just a retardedly versatile carbine. It was so good at so many different things, just like the M16A3, except it did have a carbine damage model, which I didn't find to be, that big of a deal. But I think it's the same sort of thought process that is behind this one. The only difference is that you gotta master the timing and the recoil of it. Once you're past that, you can use it just like you used your M4A1 in Battlefield 3, and then even have an advantage over that weapon at long range. And I literally mean that. Like, burst weapons are pretty much just purpose-built for longer range than the automatic versions of weapons. And while, yes, this is a video game, it does sort of represent that, and it can be quite effective at a good distance. Now, the suppressor isn't the best attachment for that sort of gameplay, but I do really like using the suppressor on the M4. For one, it looks cool, and for two, I play a lot of domination. I don't really have to worry about long-range engagements for the most part. But I bring up the best carbine thing, and the best carbine, I think, deserves the crown of the best weapon in the game. And the reason I say that is because you can use it for any class: recon, engineer, support, and assault. You can use the same weapon. And if I learned anything whenever I was playing Battlefield 3 competitively, it's that you need to use one weapon, and you need to master it, and you can be everything that you can be if you are using one weapon all the time. And the ability to use the same weapon on all the different classes is something to definitely be excited about, and the M4 I think is a fantastic choice and is amongst some of the best carbines and best weapons in the game. I'm LevelUp here at OnPointTactical. I highly advise that you try out the M4 and the IIITech combination. Let me know in the comments box what your luck is with that, and hope to see you guys on the battlefield.